Okay, we're on our last couple of videos for this whole semester. We want to talk a little bit more about quadratic equations. And I want to remind you that in Math 103, we expect that all of this information we've given you for this entire course, actually, you know and understand. So take time over the next couple of weeks to review your notes as you head into Math 103. Is it possible for a quadratic equation to have no solution? Well, let's look at an example here. The first question I'm asking you is, which method would you use to solve this? And remember, we have a number of methods for solving quadratic equations. We first talked about looking for a greatest common factor. I don't see one here. We suggested you could solve by factoring a quadratic trinomial. But when I look at a times c equaling 9, I know there are no numbers that will give me b, -2. This one isn't suitable for using the square root method. I don't already have a factor squared here. We could try completing the square, but if I did that, I would end up with a fraction in the middle term, and we never like that. That's completing the square. So we're going to use our quadratic formula here. Have you got that formula memorized? Why don't you pause and write it down? Did any of you look up the quadratic formula song and sing it to yourself while you write it? Always a good way to learn things. All right, so we know that we need to find A, B, and C. A is 3, B is -2, and C equals 3. Remember, for this formula, you have to be given your equation in standard form. So now we can plug our values into the formula. X equals the opposite of b. B squared, I'm just going to write 4. All over 2 times a. So we have 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 36 all over 6. I hope you can see, because we have the square root of -32, that this question has no real solution. Oh, I was going to write that in our notes here. Why does it have no real solution? Because the value of the radicand is less than 0. The value of the number underneath the square root sign is less than 0. Now think about what that means. If there's no solution for this equation, then the graph has no x-intercepts. No solution means no x-intercepts. Why is that? Well, we could write our quadratic equation as y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And in the case of this question here, we've let y equal 0. Whenever we let y equal 0, we're finding the x-intercepts. When we're talking about the radicand in the quadratic formula, we're talking about the discriminant. The discriminant is the part of the equation under the square root sign. B squared minus 4ac. We call this the discriminant. Now think about that. There are three possibilities for that discriminant. First of all, the discriminant could be less than 0, and this means there will be no real solution. When we were talking about radicals, we said that it's possible for there to be an imaginary solution, but we're not concerned with imaginary numbers in this course. So let's find the discriminant for question 1. Pause your video, find A, B, C, and then find the discriminant. So we found A equals 1, B equals -1, C equals 4. We're going to substitute that all into our discriminant. B squared minus 4 times A times C. This equals 1 minus 16 or -15. That means we have -15 underneath the square root sign. Our second possibility is that the discriminant can be equal to 0. When the discriminant equals 0, there will be one solution. Think about our formula. The opposite of b plus or minus the square root of. If we're looking at plus or minus the square root of 0, whether we add 0 or subtract 0, we're going to have only one solution. Pause your video and find the discriminant for question 2. So we have b squared minus 4 times A times C. This equals 16 minus 16 or 0. This question has one solution or one x-intercept. It's also possible for the discriminant to be greater than 0. This tells me there will be two solutions. Pause your video again, find the discriminant. So you had this time 4 squared minus 4 times 3 times 1. 16 minus 12 equals 4. The discriminant is greater than 0. We will have two solutions.